Ravens flock. The flock rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The flock rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to start with the Ravens adding some pass rush help. They signed Yannick Ngakoue. You guys may remember him from 2020. He had a short stint here under Wink Martindale, though. It was not under this defensive. I guess it's all been kind of stemming under the same defensive umbrella, but Wink called the game a lot differently than Mike McDonald did and now Zach Orr. So hopefully Yannick has a better time here in Baltimore than he did 4 years ago and can contribute and play a role for this defense. I think that he's brought in to be a rotational pass rusher for sure. I mean, he's 29 years old, former Pro Bowler. He definitely has talent. He's a quicker rusher. He's not going to blow your mind setting the edge or blowing up the run game. He's definitely more of a traditional, quicker pass rusher, but that's fine because I think we brought him on because our guys are getting gassed in the fourth quarter. If you watch the Ravens defense against the Cowboys in the fourth quarter when we kind of had our meltdown or collapse and the Cowboys came back, the rush could not get home. They were gassed, and I understand why the defense got tired. It's not like they're out of shape or something. I mean, they were put on the field basically 3 consecutive drives in a row. It's hard for any defense to have an explosive rush. So I think that's what the Ravens are doing here. They saw an opportunity with Yannick still on the market for a cheap price. He's going to serve as a depth piece, a rotational guy, especially on third down situations in the end of the game in the fourth quarter when we need pressure and he hasn't played a ton throughout the game. I think it's a perfect guy that you could throw in there and get some explosiveness and get to the quarterback still even late in the games when the rest of the defense is a little gassed. Hopefully we aren't in that situation too often where the defense has to be out there for 3 straight drives because we fumble an onside kick and then the offense goes 3 and out. I mean, that's a recipe for anybody to come back. But this is a low-risk, high-upside move, and I'm not expecting him to even be out there a ton. He's probably going to start on the practice squad. He might not even be activated this week. I'm not sure, but he will be activated here in the next few weeks, and I don't think he's going to have a major role. He's not going to be out there like Adafe always out there or anything, but he's definitely going to get in the game. He's got a lot of experience. I think that he can help us, and I will never be against the Ravens adding talent to the roster. Was I a little surprised? Yeah, I mean, I think this move kind of came out of nowhere, and especially with his experience 4 years ago, I was like, maybe Yannick wouldn't want to come back here. The Ravens didn't really love the way that panned out either, I'm sure, so they didn't want him back, but obviously they do. They feel like he can provide us depth and maybe perform and excel in a different style defense or at least a different called defense than Wink Martindale had 4 years ago when he was here. But we'll see how it plays out. He might not make a huge impact, but I think having that depth there is never a bad thing. Let's talk a little AFC North. The Bengals last night go to 0-3. Now, we saw the graphic last week when the Ravens were staring 0-3 in the face. Only 1 out of 129 teams have made the playoffs starting 0-3. So the Bengals are backs against the wall up against history. Basically no shot at making the playoffs according to history. Now, obviously there's 14 games left and the Bengals could easily, go on a tear and make the playoffs and become that second team. But I think they got a lot of holes. Their defense looked horrible last night, especially that run defense. If Jaden Daniels is out there running like that against the Bengals and able to make plays, I don't see why Lamar can't. And we literally play the Bengals next week after the Bills. So I don't think it's enough time for the Bengals to figure out their entire defense and have some great run defense all of a sudden. I think the Ravens are going to be able to really capitalize on that. Now, the Bengals offense definitely got going. I don't think that that's going to be an easy task, stopping Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. The Bengals are able to put up some points. I'm just saying, if you're constantly playing from behind because your defense can't stop anything, it's going to be a long year for them. I was definitely happy to see the Bengals start 0-3, especially after the Ravens started how they did. It's kind of nice to see some other teams in the division struggle too. The Browns are 1-2. They're tied with the Ravens. They don't look great. I don't think that Deshaun Watson's bringing a lot of high-level quarterback play to them. Their defense is solid. It's always solid, but they're going to have to battle out some wins because their offense is not going to be able to just light the scoreboard up unless something changes. But I don't have a lot of confidence in the Browns moving forward and their ability to score. Therefore, I think they could have a lot of lower scoring close games and end up being around 500 or so. I don't know if the Browns are going to be a force this year. Not that they're ever really a Super Bowl contender to me, but they can be a tough team to beat. It's not like they're going to be an easy matchup, but I just don't see them making the playoffs and making some crazy run. And then the Steelers are 3-0. They're sitting at the top of the division right now. They haven't played a lot of tough teams. They just played the Chargers, but Herbert got hurt and their tackle went out. But shout out to the Steelers, man. I feel like they're managing the games well and they're getting these wins. So 3-0 is 3-0. Justin Fields is playing smarter than I expected. I feel like he's managing the game really well, making good decisions, and he's only probably going to get better. I think they're definitely going to keep him as a starter. I'd be shocked if they just switch from Fields when they're winning games. He's really going to have to start struggling for them to make a change. But Pittsburgh's definitely a tough matchup. I think that the Ravens are going to have trouble when they play the Steelers. I also think the Ravens offense could struggle against the Browns, to be honest with you. Those D-lines, those fronts are going to give us fits. I don't want to see Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. But we don't play those teams for a few more weeks, so who knows what's going on with us and with them in a couple weeks from now when we do match up. We have the Bengals in 2 weeks after this Bills game, so that is a little bit more in the near future. Speaking of the Bills game, they dominated the Jaguars last night. They looked phenomenal. I don't think that the Ravens match up the same way that the Jaguars did, though. I think the Bills aren't going to be doing something like that to Baltimore, especially Sunday night in Baltimore, blackout. I think the Ravens can get really physical with the Bills receivers and make it a lot harder. I mean, Josh Allen's going to do what Josh Allen does. He's definitely going to make some plays. He's always hard to bring down in and outside of the pocket. And we'll dive into this matchup in great detail later in the week, but I just kind of want to peek ahead a little bit. Especially since they just played last night and they're fresh on our minds. The Bills are not an easy matchup. Probably since Kansas City, I would say this is our hardest game. We're going to have to be on our A game for sure. It's not going to be an easy win. I like how our defense matches up against their offense. They definitely ain't putting up 47 points, man. Now, their defensive front could definitely cause a lot more problems than the Cowboys did for us because Ed Oliver and Von Miller up there, no joke. I think that they could wreak havoc on our offensive line, and we could be talking about our offensive line issues once again. I know it has chilled out a little bit since they looked a little better against the Cowboys, but the Cowboys is a bad front for your line to, gain a bunch of confidence and test themselves against. I'm glad we performed well. I'm glad that they played better, but they should play better against a front like that. So it's not really anything where I've gained an enormous amount of confidence. I definitely need to see the line perform this way for a few weeks against some more talented fronts. And I'd be like, all right, man, the line's really stepped up and this plan's starting to play out into fruition. That'd be amazing. I would love that, but I'm still a little shaky and we have a tough defensive front again this week. So, we'll see how it plays out. I'm definitely excited for this game. I think the Ravens are definitely going to bring their A game. The last thing I want to touch on is there's been a lot of talk this week about did the Ravens find their identity, and that obviously means run first, right? I think that the identity has been pretty clear. Whether we went out there and executed the game plan at a high level or not is a different story, but it seems pretty obvious to me that this team starts with the run and needs to run through Henry and Lamar and Justice Hill, the entire running game. Lamar's included in that for sure. So that needs to be the majority of play calling, but not 45 runs, 15 passes. I think that Cowboys game is an extreme outlier. Probably more like 35 runs, 25 passes, something like that. I think when Lamar's throwing low to mid 20s, the amount of throws that he has, we're always in a good position, kind of controlling the game. You don't want to see Lamar throwing 35 plus times. That usually means we're down and just passing way too much. And I really just don't think that the Ravens offense is built to only pass. I think that we need to pass off of a successful run game. And you saw that open up a little bit last week. We didn't throw a lot. Lamar was 12 for 15, so it's not like there's a huge sample size here. But you saw on that first drive of the game, we started running. We go with a heavier sets, 12 personnel. The Cowboys match that, and then we call bootleg and Charlie Kohler's wide open for a 30-yard pass. There's so many options that open up off of a successful run game, and we have the weapons to create those mismatches. So it all really depends on a successful run game. So I think that is our offensive identity. I thought that was pretty obvious. I know coaches talk, like we haven't quite found our identity and stuff. And it's going to change week to week a little bit for sure. Like I said, we're not going to be running 45 times against the Bills this Sunday night. That would be amazing. I mean, obviously that means we're pounding the rock and dominating them if that is the case. But I cannot imagine the game plan being like that. We're going to be a little bit more aggressive, pushing the ball downfield, but off of that run game. If you can't run the ball, if you don't have a successful run game and Lamar's consistently in 3rd and long, I don't think that that's a recipe for the Ravens to have a lot of success. It's not that we couldn't do it. It's possible, but it's a lower odds chance of success, and it's not based off Lamar not being able to throw. It's just based off our offense is not set up to basically have the defense know that we're passing every single play and then have shaky O-line play where Lamar doesn't have a lot of time. If the defense is in a position to know that we're passing because we're behind or whatever the case is, and our line's holding up, then it's a different story. If Lamar's got time, I trust that the weapons downfield are going to get open. He's going to be able to find Zay, Bateman, Andrews, Likely, whoever it may be. But when the defense is consistently getting pressure on Lamar and we have to pass play after play, or we're in these 3rd and longs, it's not a good scenario for us. I think that we're way, way better built to be balanced, to run with Henry, run with Lamar, keep the defense guessing, and then you got play action passes all day. You can sneak players downfield. There's just a million things that open up when you're dominating on the ground. So that is definitely the Ravens' identity. Hope that they stick with it. I don't really see a reason not to. I think going this heavy in that Cowboys game, 45 runs to 15 passes, is a pretty clear statement that the Ravens aren't afraid to commit to it when it's needed or when the opportunity's there from the defense. So I think a little less runs, but the Ravens are going to be a run-first team, as they should be. You don't sign Derrick Henry and have Lamar Jackson to not run the ball. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the Yannick signing. How are we going to use him? Are you excited about it? Does it move your happiness meter at all? What are you thinking about the AFC North? I know you guys are excited about the Bengals starting 0-3, but what do you think about the North overall? How good are the Steelers in your opinion? And how confident are you in the Ravens moving forward, especially this Sunday against the Bills? Are you still concerned about the O-line and things like that, or are you feeling a lot better since we got our first win? Let me know. Love reading what you guys have to say. And that's it for today, guys. I appreciate you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.